Read verse 20 again.
Acts chapter 15, verse 20. But that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols.
So that deals with all the idolatrous laws, the laws that deals with not worshiping idols, not serving them, not following their customs and holidays. You must substitute that when you repent with what God says. Go ahead.
And from fornication.
Now we understand that. It's dealing with those sexual sins, okay, in all its diversities. Go ahead.
And from things strangled.
And from things strangled. Go ahead.
And from blood.
And from blood. What is that talking about? Things strangled. And that's the dietary law. Write that down. Because you got Christians. They didn't teach the dietary law. The devil is a liar. What do you mean from things strangled and from, that's the diet. Let's read that. Give me that. Give me Deuteronomy 15:22. About from strangled, things strangled. Deuteronomy 15:22.
Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 22.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt eat it within thy gates. The unclean and the clean person shall eat it alike, as the roebuck and as the hart.
That the roebuck and the hart are in the deer family. Go ahead. You gave an example. It says as the roebuck, meaning those animals with the cleft hoof and that are cloven-footed and they chew the cud. Read.
Only thou shalt not eat the blood thereof.
Don't eat the blood. What should we do with the blood?
Thou shalt pour it upon the ground as water.
You got to pour the blood out like water. So you couldn't eat strangled food. You had to pour the blood out. Now give me Leviticus 17:12.
Leviticus chapter 17, verse 12. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourneth among you eat blood. And whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, which hunteth and catcheth any beast or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof.
So we had to pour out the blood. Was that, you finished verse 12 because I'm not looking at it.
And I was going into 13.
Okay,
right?
let's go on back to Acts 15, please. And read 20 again. So now we got our minds settled. When people say they didn't teach the Gentile Israelites to keep commandments, you was a damn liar. Read that verse 20 again.
Acts chapter 15, verse 20. But that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood.
So that's only 4 things they mentioned in this letter. Only 4 things. So again, what was missing? Stealing wasn't mentioned. Lying wasn't mentioned. Honoring your parents wasn't mentioned. And killing wasn't mentioned. Does that mean that we can go around and do them things? No. Watch next verse. It explains it. 21 explains what's at the loss of words.
Verse 21. For Moses of old time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day.
Why did he say that? So if there was anything else they had to learn in detail, on the Sabbath they're being taught. Everybody understand what's going on here? Stop listening to these evil, dumb Christians who don't know a daggone thing. From there. Let's go to chapter 21. Acts 21. Yes.
So that's saying that every Sabbath they were fellowshipping and they were reading the laws.
Exactly.
To keep reminding the brothers and the sisters to keep the laws.
Exactly. So in their letter, however, they just gave an abbreviation. Stay away from pollutions of idols. Don't commit fornication. You know they had to explain. Fornication, what the hell does that mean? They had to, of course, they had to be explained. And in all its diversity, it's various kinds. And the dietary law, they taught them that too. So now we're in Acts 21. Is Christians online getting mad right now? Why? Because you've been lied to. You wicked as hell. Acts 21, we're going to start at verse 18, please.
Acts chapter 21, verse 18. And the day following, Paul went in with us unto James, and all the elders were present. And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things God had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry. Verse 20.
Now we know who them Gentiles are, the part of the 10 tribes. And part what? You also had the other southern kingdom was scattered as well. Some of them. Read.
Verse 20. And when they heard it, They glorified the Lord and said unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews there are which believe, and they are all zealous of the law.
All the Jews that believe, Paul, they're zealous of the law. They want to do the law. Go ahead.
And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses.
So now they say, wait a minute, but Paul, there's some controversy about you. There's a controversy that you're teaching in those daggone letters of yours that the Gentiles don't got to keep, that the Jews that are among the Gentiles don't got to keep God's laws. Read.
Saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs.
See that? So there's a rumor that you're teaching people not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs. Let me give you an example of that. Where is it? I believe it's 1 Corinthians, is it chapter 7? I want the one that says, I ain't got it on top of my head. It says, oh, here it goes, 1 Corinthians 7 and 19.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 19.
Start at 18.
Verse 18. Is any man called being circumcised?
Are you a Jew? You've been called in this truth and you have been circumcised? Go ahead.
Let him not become uncircumcised.
Don't become uncircumcised, meaning don't stop doing the law. That's how you got to read this thing. Go ahead.
Is any called in uncircumcision?
Are you called in uncircumcision like Father Abraham was called in uncircumcision? This was to the Gentile Israelites. They were called being uncircumcised. Go ahead.
Let him not be circumcised.
Let him not be circumcised. Now you can, what does he mean by that? They don't got to do it? Huh? Yes, they did. But he's talking about don't circumcise yourselves like the Jews did. Meaning you don't got to follow the exact or explicit strictness of the laws of sacrifice. That's what he's going into. Read.
Verse 19.
Watch this.
Circumcision is nothing.
Circumcision is nothing. Go ahead.
And uncircumcision is nothing.
Meaning you Jews that are circumcised is nothing. And you Gentile Israelites is nothing either. Go ahead.
But the keeping of the commandments of God.
You see that part right there? Is circumcision a commandment? Yes. So that's why you got to try to understand what is Paul saying. Is he saying don't keep the commandments? He's never saying don't keep the commandments. He's just writing things very hard to be understood. And that was meant for us today. Let's go on back now. So that was an example of what Acts 21 is going into.
In other words, Bishop, what is the purpose of you circumcised but you don't keep the commandment?
Exactly.
That makes no sense. That's
right.
What he's saying.
Yes, exactly right. Because you remember, the Pharisees were all circumcised. Did they keep the commandments? Hell no, they was wicked as hell. So back to Acts 21. And what verse were we at? Verse 21. Acts 21:21.
Acts chapter 21, verse 21. And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs. What is it therefore? The multitude must needs come together.
What does that mean? Everybody got to be on one accord. The multitude must come together. We must all be on one accord. We got to deal with this confusion with you, Paul, in your letters. Read.
For they will hear that thou art come.
Read.
Verse 23. Do therefore this that we say to thee. We have 4 men which have a vow on them. To take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, that they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing, but that thou thyself also walketh orderly and keepest the law.
See that? So now what vow? Numbers 6:13. Numbers 6 verse 13, or just the vow to Nazarite. A temporary one, temporary vow to Nazarite. Numbers 6 verse 13 and 14.
Numbers chapter 6 verse 13. And this is the law of the Nazarite. When the days of his separation are fulfilled, he shall be brought unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and he shall offer his offering unto the Lord, 1 he-lamb of the first year without blemish, for a burnt offering, and 1 ewe-lamb of the first year without blemish, for a sin offering, and 1 ram without blemish for peace offerings.
Let's go on back. So that's what they were telling Paul to do. Read it again, Acts 21 and verse 24.
Acts 21, verse 24.
Start at 23 again.
Verse 23. Do therefore this that we say to thee. We have 4 men which have a vow on them. Them take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, and that they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing, but that thou thyself also walketh orderly, and keepest the law. Verse 25.
I'm sorry, go back to number 6. I should have read this. I know somebody's going, but they didn't shave their heads. Number 6. Go back to number 6 and jump to verse 18. I know I'm going to get an email, but they didn't shave their heads. That ain't the same thing. Shut the hell up.
Numbers chapter 6, verse 18. And the Nazarite shall shave the head of his separation at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall take the hair of the head of his separation, and put it in the fire, which is under the sacrifice of the peace offerings.
All right, now, let's go on back now to Acts 21 and verse 24 again.
Acts chapter 21, verse 24. Them take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, that they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing, but that thou thyself also walkest orderly, and keepest the law.
So James, their plan was, they said, look, Paul, we need the people to see you keeping the law, the strictness of the law of Moses. That way, there'll be no confusion about your letters that you've been talking about. Read.
Verse 25. As touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing.
What do you mean, no such thing? The vow of the Nazarite. They don't have to do that. They don't have to. And because right after the vow of the Nazarite, not only did you have to shave your head, you had to do what? Sacrifice. Which means if you're sacrificing, that means what? You really didn't believe in Christ. So they were saying the Gentiles ain't got to do that. They were not brought up like that. So they didn't have to do the vows of the Nazarite. Read that again.
As touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols.
Now, we read that earlier. It goes into all the laws that pertain to idolatry. Go ahead.
And from blood.
That's the dietary law.
And from strangle.
That's dietary law.
And from fornication.
That's sexual sins. Again, it's an abbreviated message. It only lists 4 things not to do. But again, stealing is not mentioned. Lying is not mentioned. Honoring parents is not mentioned. And no killing is not mentioned. You got to use your common sense. Read.
Verse 26. Then Paul took the men, and the next day, purifying himself with them, entered into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that an offering should be offered for every one of them.
From there, let's go to Galatians 5. Galatians chapter 5. And what we're going to do, I'm going to show y'all something. What I want. I want the part, maybe y'all know where it is, because I didn't write it down. Where in Galatians it says, Galatians 5, and I want verse 4.
Galatians chapter 5.
Start at 1.
Verse 1. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage.
Now, y'all see that part? Be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Hold that, Nehemiah. Go back to Acts chapter 15, I believe it was. Let me look. Where it said, why put a yoke? Yeah, Acts 15 and 10.
Acts chapter 15, verse 10. Now therefore, why tempt ye God to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear?
Let's go back to Galatians. 5 and 1.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 1. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage.
The yoke of bondage that he's making reference to is the law of sacrifice. Why? Because the law of sacrifice could not make anyone perfect. You can read it, write this down. Hebrews 10, verse 1 through 8. You can read on that on your own, because we've gone over it many times before. That was the only law, and everything that pertained to sacrifice, like you had to go to the Levites, who had to do this for you and do that for you and clean the ashes out. All of that is a yoke of bondage. That's what it's talking about. Read on.
Verse 2. Behold, I, Paul, say unto you that if you be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing.
Why? Right, because the Israelites back then, they thought because they were circumcised in the flesh, they were good with God. No, because you weren't keeping the commandments. So your circumcision was garbage. Go ahead.
Verse 3. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to do the whole law.
You holding on to that circumcision, that's what makes you good, then you're a debtor to do everything in the law. Go ahead.
Christ is become of no effect unto you.
Christ has become of no effect. Because what? Why? Because they didn't believe in Christ. So if you don't believe in Christ, that means you must do everything under the old covenant, including stick with them sacrifices. And if you was a poor Israelite, shame on you. You done. Because some sacrifices was beyond a turtle dove. Some sacrifice you had to buy a bull and an ox. And if you didn't have no money, bye-bye. Read.
Whosoever of you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace.
You're fallen from Christ. Go ahead.
Verse 5. For we through the Spirit wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. For in Jesus Christ neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which worketh by love.
But faith which worketh by love. Hold on. Give me that 2 John verse 6.
2 John verse 6. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment, that as ye have heard from the beginning, you should walk in it.
So when the apostles talked about love, they were making reference to the commandments. Go back to Galatians 5 and 6, please.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 6. For in Jesus Christ neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which worketh by love.
But faith in Christ, which worketh by keeping the commandments. Everybody understand that? Now watch this. Let's jump on down. I want to get to some key points. Jump down to verse 19.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest.
Now the works of the flesh. Now we're going through this because like when you look at our brother T.D. Jakes, he said, no, you didn't have to keep any commandments. Well, if that's true, we just proved that a lie with love, the word love there. Now we're going to go into the works of the flesh and see what that's talking about. Verse 19 again.
Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery.
Now Paul's talking about adultery. Give me that in Deuteronomy 22:22, please. I'm showing you that Christianity is garbage. It has fooled and deceived us all. And this is why they ignore the writing, they ignore the words of Christ and run straight to Paul, who wrote things hard to be understood, like Peter told us about. Read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 22. If a man be found lying with a woman married to an husband, then they shall both of them die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. So shalt thou put away evil from Israel.
So that's the law of adultery. Let's go on back to Galatians 5. So what is Paul teaching the Galatians? The commandments, the law of God. Back to Galatians 5:19 again.
Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication.
Didn't we cover that in fornication? We covered that 1 Corinthians 5 and 1, Leviticus 18:8 down. But let me give you two more scriptures for fornication. Leviticus 19:29, please. Remember, fornication deals with sexual sins. Leviticus 19, verse 29. That's all I want.
Leviticus chapter 19, verse 29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore.
What does that mean? Dress her modestly. Don't dress her like a whore. And she ain't supposed to have no boyfriends. That's whoredom. Read it again. That's prostitution. Because all of us knew when we had girlfriends what we done did. Let's go to the movies and sit in the back in the last row. But I can't see the movie. The hell with the movie! Read that again.
Leviticus chapter 19, verse 29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom, and the land become full of wickedness.
From there, give me Deuteronomy 23:17. I'm still dealing with fornication. Sexual sins. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 17. There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel.
See there? That goes into homosexuality and lesbianism. Going back to Galatians 5. So what do they mean Paul never taught us to keep the commandments? They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Back to Galatians 5:19, please.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness.
Now, uncleanness is a very broad term. It can go into sex, but it can also deal with the dietary law. Watch this. Give me that in Leviticus 11:47.
Leviticus chapter 11, verse 47. To make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten.
Was that it?
Yes, sir.
Give me 1 Samuel 14:32. Like I said, the term uncleanness is very broad.
1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 32. And the people flew upon the spoil, and took sheep and oxen and calves, and slew them on the ground. And the people did eat them with the blood.
So that goes into the dietary law, the uncleanness. Let's go on back. Galatians 5, what verse you at?
19 still, sir.
Go ahead.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness.
Can we look up that word, Alicia? Lasciviousness. Lasciviousness. It's right there. Yep. Blow it up big. I like the top. The top, just blow it up big. Can you? Okay, read that. Put it on the screen.
Lascivious, inclined to lustfulness, wanton, lewd. Number 2, arousing sexual desire. Number 3, indicating sexual interest or expressive of lust or lewdness.
So now, sexual lust, lustful lust. Give me in the book of Susanna, in the Apocrypha, chapter 1. We're going to read 8 through 11. Just to give you an example of lasciviousness.
What verse?
We're going to read 8 through 11. Chapter 1, 8 through 11.
The history of Susanna, verse 8. And the 2 elders saw her going in every day and walking, so that their lust was inflamed.
So what was inflamed?
Their lust.
Their lust. This is lasciviousness. Their lust was, see that word? Inflamed. They couldn't put it out. No water could quench it. Only one thing could quench that fire. Read it again.
Verse 8. And the 2 elders saw her going in every day and walking, so that their lust was inflamed toward her. And they perverted their own minds.
And they perverted their own minds. You know, well, I don't want to say that. You know, you look at somebody, you look at a girl, and then you look at a woman, and your mind gets perverted. Oh, what I could do. Oh, what I would like to do. Slap it up. Rub it down. What the hell is this? So their mind was inflamed towards Susanna. What verse you at?
Verse 9.
We're reading down to 11.
Yes, sir. And they perverted their own mind and turned away their eyes, that they might not look unto heaven.
They didn't even, they said, we're not even going to look to heaven. Go ahead.
Nor remember just judgments. Verse 10. And albeit they were both wounded with her love, yet durst not one show another his grief. Verse 11. For they were ashamed to declare their lust, that they desired to have to do with her.
See that? Let's go on back to Galatians now. Now we got an example of lasciviousness. So what I want y'all to see is Paul is going through the law for us. What verse you at? 20?
20, yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 20. Idolatry.
Idolatry. We read about that earlier in Exodus 20, correct? We read verse 4 all the way down. Okay, read on.
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft. Give me that in Exodus 22, verse 18. Witchcraft. So Paul is taking us step by step. And isn't this odd for people that say, no, you're saved by grace and not by works. You don't have to do anything. Really? So we can be an adulterer. We can be lascivious. We can be witches. Read that.
Exodus chapter 22, verse 18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live.
The Bible says you shall not allow a witch to live. Give me the follow up with that. Deuteronomy 18, 10 through 12. Am I going too fast? Deuteronomy 18, 10 through 12.
Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 10. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter.
Wait. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh the son or daughter to pass through the fire. That's going into abortion, sacrificing your kids to death. It says, or that useth divination, or an observer of times. You know what an observer of time is? You know the people in the horoscope? I'm a Sagittarius, and my horoscope says Wednesday is not a good day for me, so I can't go to work today. Oh, you're a Capricorn? We go well together. Meanwhile, he's a child molester. But because our zodiacs are compatible, we can be together. What are you going to say?
Hey, you know, it was before my generation, but some of y'all elderly people in here, y'all know that song Float On by the Floaters?
Oh, yeah. My mama had that
name
record.
is Larry.
Mm-hmm. Take my hand. What sign are you? Capricorn? What the hell is this? Where at, Nehemiah?
Verse 10 at the bottom, sir.
Go ahead.
Verse 10. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter.
Like, remember in New York, the sister had all kind of witchcraft books trying to cast spells. Oh, no, you got it on New Orleans and Louisiana where they plant your drawers in the yard so that you can't go but so far. The hell is this? Putting period blood in your food to bind you. Make it look like it's spaghetti sauce. The hell is this? I'm going to make a love potion. He going to fall in love with me. The hell is this? Read on.
Or a witch. Verse 11. Or a charmer, or a consulter.
You know what a charmer is? What's that rabbit's foot? That's my lucky charm. The hell is this? Charms. Go ahead.
Or a consulter with familiar spirits.
Or a consulter with familiar. I want my mama. Hey, can you raise my mama up? I have a question for my mama. What's my birth certificate at? You raised me from the dead for this, boy? The hell is this? Ask your daddy. Ask your daddy. So that was in that movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg. Read on.
Or a wizard. Or a necromancer.
Or a necromancer, somebody that talks to the dead. Go ahead.
Verse 12. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee.
So let's go on back to Galatians 5. And we are in verse 20.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 20. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred.
Hatred. Give me that Leviticus 19:17. So Paul is writing this letter to the Galatians, to those Israelites in Galatia, about keeping God's laws. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon them.
Read. So, because the question is, who is your neighbor? Who is the brother? Is he my brother in Christ? You have black people always told the white man's their brother in Christ. Read.
Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people.
Your brother, your neighbor is the children of your people. Solidarity, Negro. Learn it. Go on back. Give me 1 John 4:20.
1 John chapter 4, verse 20.
Dealing with hatred.
If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother, whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he hath not seen?
So all that is based on the law of Leviticus 19, verse 17 and 18. That's what it's all based on. Go back to Galatians, please.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 20. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance.
Variance. When you're at odds with somebody, give me that in Deuteronomy 19, 15 through 18. Variance.
Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 15. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established.
Y'all realize that when Christ was telling us how to deal with our brothers in Matthew 18, he was basing it on the law. So when Christians say you don't have to keep the, oh God, they annoy me. Read on.
Verse 16. If a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, then both the men between whom the controversy is.
So that's what variance is going to, when you have controversy one with another. Go ahead.
Shall stand before the Lord, before the priests and the judges, which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition. And behold, if the witness be a false witness, and hath testified falsely against his brother, then shall ye do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put the evil away from among you.
So variance deals with that law. Let's go on back to Galatians 5 again. What verse we at?
At verse 20.
Go ahead.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 20. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations.
Emulations. Let's get that in emulate. Can we look up the word emulations, Alicia? Emulations or emulate? Read.
Emulation. Effort to match or surpass a person or achievement, typically by imitation.
You trying to be better than somebody. Let me give you an example. Give me that in 2 Samuel 15 and 1.
Second Samuel chapter 15, verse 1. And it came to pass after this, that Absalom prepared him chariots and horses and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so that when any man that had a controversy came to the king for judgment, then Absalom called unto him and said, Of what city art thou? And he said, Thy servant is one of the tribes of Israel.
So notice, the people were coming to the king, to Absalom's father, David. Read.
Verse 3. And Absalom said unto him, See, thy matters are good and right, but there is no man deputed of the king to hear thee.
So he would play interference. Read on. We're going down to 6. Come on.
Absalom said, Moreover, O that I were made judge in the land, that every man which hath any suit or cause might come unto me, and I would do him justice. And it was so that when any man came nigh to him to do him obeisance, he put forth his hand and took him and kissed him. Verse 6. And on this manner did Absalom to all Israel that came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel.
Absalom's plan, this was a 40-year plan in the making. His plan was to be king, to dethrone his father. Emulation. So we can't roll in that type of a spirit. Okay, yeah.
Wasn't there a brother who left a couple years ago who had that emulative spirit that wanted to surpass the elder that was there in front of him?
Oh, yes.
Come to me.
Yep, exactly.
You have problems, come to me. Yeah, right.
Exactly. I love the 12 tribes of Israel. Go back to Galatians.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 20. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath.
Let's get that in Esther chapter 3, verse 5. Esther chapter 3 and verse 5. Wrath.
Esther chapter 3, verse 5. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath.
He was full of wrath because Mordecai, our forefather, did not bow to him. His red behind, because he was an Edomite. Well, that was it?
Yes, sir.
Give me Proverbs 15:18. Now, the reason I'm going to the Old Testament scriptures is because when Paul wrote these New Testament, these new epistles, there was no New Testament. These were in the makings. Everybody understand that? Everything that they wrote was based on Old Testament writings. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 15, verse 18. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife.
Chapter 19, verse 19 of Proverbs.
Proverbs chapter 19, verse 19. A man of great wrath shall suffer punishment, for if thou deliver him, yet thou must do it again.
Right, because he's filled with wrath. He can't control his anger. Let's go on back to Galatians.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 20. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife.
Give me that in Proverbs 26:17 about strife.
Proverbs chapter 26, verse 17. He that passeth by and meddleth with strife belongeth not to him, is like one that taketh a dog by the ears.
What happens when you take a dog by the ears when you grab him? What happens? So you know what that verse is saying? Mind your business. If the problem has nothing to do with you, and that's for you sisters really, don't put your nose in it because you're going to get bit. You everybody understand that? Mm-hmm. Go back to Galatians 5.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 20. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions.
Seditions. Let's look up that word seditions, Elisha. Seditions. Okay, put it up.
Sedition. Conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch.
Now, there's a few places we can go with, a lot of places. Let's look at Ezra 4, verse 15. We could go to the one in Numbers too, and remember with Korah, Dathan, and On. They incited rebellion against Moses. Let's go to Ezra 4:15. I never read that one.
Ezra chapter 4, verse 15.
All we want is 15.
That search may be made in the book of the records of thy fathers. So shalt thou find in the book of the records, and know that this city is a rebellious city, and hurtful unto kings and provinces, and that they have moved sedition within the same of old time.
So they were trying to say we were seditious. Was that it, Nehemiah?
No, sir.
Go ahead.
For which cause was this city destroyed?
From there, let's go on back. I'm just cutting down the scriptures for time's sake.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 20. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies.
Heresies. Let's go to Jeremiah 28. We're going to read 8 and 9, then we're going to jump down.
Jeremiah chapter 28, verse 8. The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence.
So they were prophesying the destruction and fall of all the nations, all the empires. Read.
Verse 9. The prophet which prophesieth of peace, when the word of the prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that the Lord hath truly sent him.
Jump down to verse 15. We're going to read down to 17. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Verse 15. Then said that the prophet Jeremiah unto Hananiah the prophet.
So Jeremiah the prophet is now speaking with Hananiah the prophet. Go ahead.
Hear now, Hananiah, the Lord hath not sent thee.
The Lord did not send you. Go ahead.
But thou makest this people to trust in a lie.
Because he was prophesying lies, heresies against the Lord. Read.
Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will cast thee from off the face of the earth. This year thou shalt die, because thou hast taught rebellion against the Lord. Verse 17. So Hananiah the prophet died the same year in the 7th month.
So what was Hananiah preaching? Verse 9 again, in case you missed it.
Verse 9. The prophet which prophesieth of peace.
Peace, meaning that's that motivational, you feel good, I'm going to make you feel good, you're going to get money. This is your season to be blessed in Jesus. Everything's going to go right in this country, in this world. Everything's going to be good in your family. Don't worry, just put it all in Jesus' hands. That's that peace stuff. And the Lord killed Hananiah for that because there's no peace. You're in a nation here held for captivity to be delivered from here, which means this nation must go down. So what's all this motivational, feel-good religion stuff that T.D. Jakes, Creflo Dollar, and all these other black ministers are teaching about? Peace is evil in the sight of the Lord. It's evil. They make the people, like I said, read it again. Verse 15 again. Watch what it says.
Verse 15. Then said the prophet Jeremiah unto Hananiah the prophet, Hear now, Hananiah, the Lord had not sent thee, but thou makest this people to trust in a lie.
You make the people to trust in a lie. You got all these women and men believing in some feel-good, motivational, get some damn money doctrine. That's what it's talking about. Let's go on back to Galatians now.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 21. Envyings.
Give me Proverbs 3:31. Envyings.
Proverbs chapter 3, verse 31. Envy thou not the oppressor.
Don't envy the white man. Don't envy the other nations. Was that it?
No, sir.
Go ahead.
And choose none of his ways.
And choose none of his ways. Don't choose his religions. Don't choose his politics. Don't choose none of his ways. Let's go on back.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 21. Envyings, murders.
Murders. Oh, no, where do you go? Murders. Finally, Exodus 20 and 13. Exodus 20 and 13.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill. Going back now to Galatians.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 21. Envyings, murders, drunkenness.
Drunkenness. Proverbs 31, 4 and 5. Again, Paul is not making things up. Everything Paul is teaching the Galatians is based upon the Old Testament writings. Read.
Proverbs chapter 31, verse 4. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law.
And this is the reason why, because when you drink too much, you will forget the law. Go ahead.
And pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted.
And you will pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. Was that it?
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to Galatians.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 21. Envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings.
Revelings, Numbers 25, 1 through 8, please.
Numbers chapter 25, verse 1. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. Mm-hmm. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods. And the people did eat and bowed down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. Verse 4. And the Lord said unto Moses, Take all the heads of the people, and hang them up before the Lord against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, Slay ye every one his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. Verse 6. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moses.
So you got to remember, in this idolatrous feast, they were reveling. This is why they were bound, because you'll just read the top and go, all they did was eat and bow down to their gods. No, it's more than that. That's why this guy, what verse was that?
Verse 6.
Verse 6, this guy brings in a Midianitish woman. Why? Because they were having sex during their revelings. Go ahead.
And unto his brethren, a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moses, and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
Read.
And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand. Verse 8, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly.
Because she was on her back. Go ahead.
So the plague.
And he was on top. Go ahead.
So
You got to imagine it. Go ahead.
So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel.
From there, let's go to 2 Maccabees 6, verse 4.
Second Maccabees chapter 6, verse 4. For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles.
Oh, the temple was filled with riot and revelings by the Gentiles. Go ahead.
Who dallied with harlots.
Who dallied with harlots. That's what reveling goes into partying. When you party, there's a recipe for your parties. Keep it hot and have a lot of alcohol so that the women will lower their inhibitions. Read it again.
Verse 4. For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places. And besides that, brought in things that were not lawful.
So that's an example of revelings. Let's go back to Galatians now.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 21.
Mm-hmm.
Envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like.
Watch this.
Of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
So Paul says, if you do what things? Break these laws that I just gave you, you'll not inherit the kingdom of God. So it's a grievous mistake on the part of Christians to think Paul did not teach us to keep the commandments. That's a grievous error. Does everybody see that so far? Okay. From there, give me 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 9.
1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 9. Knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man.
The law is not made for righteous people. Go ahead.
But for the lawless.
But the law is made for lawless people. Let's see if this fits blacks and Latinos. Go ahead, and everybody else. Go ahead.
And disobedient.
And disobedient.
For the ungodly.
For the ungodly.
And for sinners.
And for sinners. First off, let's find out what that means. Give me that 1 John 3 and 4. What is sinner? See, that's why when y'all on the street teaching and people say stupid things, you got to pause at certain key words and hit the precept for it. Go ahead.
1 John chapter 3, verse 4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law.
And Christians are good for saying, I'm a sinner saved by grace. What do you mean by sin? I don't know. Then shut the hell up then. 1 Timothy 1 and 9 again.
1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 9. Knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers.
Murderers of fathers, murderer. Give me that in Exodus 21, 15 and 17 about murder. For murderers.
Exodus chapter 21, verse 15. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death.
If you so much as hit your mother, hit your father, God says you shall surely be put to death. Christian churches ain't teaching this. Paul is teaching this. What verse was that?
That was the bottom of 9.
Read it again.
1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 9. Knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers, and murderers of mothers,
Go ahead.
For manslayers.
Manslayers. That goes back to Exodus 20 and 13 about killing. Read on.
Verse 10. For whoremongers.
For whoremongers. Write this down for whoremongers. Leviticus 19:29. We read that earlier today too. Read.
For them that defile themselves with mankind.
For them that defile themselves with mankind. That goes into homosexuality. Get that in Deuteronomy 23:17. That goes for male or female.
Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 17. There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel.
Let's go on back to Timothy now.
1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 10.
Read.
For whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers.
Men stealers. Deuteronomy 24, verse 7, please. Men stealers goes into kidnapping. And in case you brothers didn't know it, you know when you argue with your wife, if you take your wife and you move her someplace and don't allow her to go about freely, Esau puts that under kidnapping, in case you didn't know. If you lock her in a room, Esau puts that under kidnapping. Brothers, I didn't kidnap the hoe. Yeah, but you did, Blanche. But you did. Read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 7. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and maketh merchandise of him.
You ever see brothers like in Atlanta out here, where they be stealing, snatching young girls off the street, putting them back in a van, and bringing them to like Mexico or something, making them whores on the street. They're going to get, here's the law. Read the law again.
If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and maketh merchandise of him, or selleth him, then that thief shall die.
That thief shall die. That's God's judgment for kidnapping. Was that it?
No, sir.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt put evil away from among you.
That's how you put evil away. Okay, let's go on back to Timothy. Chapter 1, and what verse we at? 10.
10, yes, sir. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 10. For whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars.
For liars. That's Exodus 20:16. We read that? No, we didn't. Give me that in Exodus 20:16. Did we read that? Let me hear it. Read that.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 16. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
So that's lying. Go on back now.
1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 10. For whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons.
Perjured person. That goes under perjury. Go to Exodus 23:1. The perjury laws. Did you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I affirm. Then you sit and tell a bold-faced lie. That's perjury. Read that.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 1.
I didn't want to get my mama in trouble. Well, you just perjured yourself. Read that.
Thou shalt not raise a false report.
You shall not raise a false report. Go ahead.
Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness.
Don't be an unrighteous. That's perjury. You want to be an unrighteous, you want to lie in court. That's called perjury. It's going back now.
1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 10. For whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine.
See that? If there be any other thing which is contrary to sound doctrine. Give me that for doctrine. Is it Proverbs 4? I forgot.
Proverbs chapter 4, verse 2. For I give you good doctrine.
I give you good doctrine. What is doctrine?
The law.
Read. Will you read?
Yes, sir. Forsake ye not my law.
Forsake ye not my law. That is the doctrine. So what is Paul talking about? The law, the law, the law. Read it again. 1 Timothy 1:10, please.
1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 10. For whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine.
If there be any other thing, meaning what? There might be something Paul said I left out. But so that means what? That means what? Now, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to see who's thinking. If there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine, where did we read that in the book of Acts based on what we just read? If there be any other thing that I might have left out, that was in the book of Acts. I don't see any hands. Okay. Put a camera on him. What the camera's on me for? This is me. Yeah, this is me. Go ahead. What did it say? Let me hear. Uh-huh. Okay. Put the camera back on him. I want the verse. Read it for us, Elkanah. Come on. That way I know you know what you're talking about. Give him a mic. All I want is the verse.
Acts 15 and 21. For Moses of old time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day.
Very good. Very good. All praise. So you paying attention, bruh. You all right. Oklahoma did do something right with you. All praises. So, back to 1 Timothy 1 and 10 again. So I want y'all to see the correlation. Mm-hmm.
1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 10. For whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine.
Read.
According to the glorious gospel.
Stop. The law is according to the gospel. How come you never heard about that in church? Read verse 11 again.
Verse 11. According to the glorious gospel.
I got to say it again. The law is according to the glorious gospel. So when you hear Christians say in the gospel, you don't got to keep the law, they're lying to you. The law is according to the gospel. Read again, verse 11.
Verse 11. According to the glorious gospel of the blessed God, which was committed to my trust.
So now, see that? Which was committed to my trust. So, Elisha, put up on the screen, I want the treaty on geography. What about Christianity today? Put the cover of the book up. And I want you to go to page. Just put it. You can see the title, Nehemiah?
Yes, sir. Physical geography.
A treatise on physical geography by A. Barrington. The year published was, look at the very bottom, what's that say?
1850.
1850. Do me a favor, Alicia. I want page 331. We're still talking about Christianity. So what we've seen thus far, Christians of today are not following anything the Christians of the Bible practiced and preached. Nehemiah, this is what I want. I want you to read the underline.
Rome received the intellectual treasures of Greece, added to the store, exhibited a new phase of law, government, and public policy, and spread civilization to the Atlantic Ocean.
So that's what Rome and Greece did. Go ahead.
Along which it spread from Gibraltar.
That's Spain, area on the Rock of Gibraltar. Go ahead.
To the Norwegian snows.
From Gibraltar to the Norwegian snows. Go ahead.
In the meantime, immense changes had taken place to alter the whole face of civilized society.
No, notice that. In the meantime, immense changes had taken place to alter, that means change, the whole face of civilized society. Read.
A new religion had appeared.
A new religion had appeared. Go ahead.
Differing in many of its doctrines.
And this religion differed in many of its doctrines
and precepts from all those who had previously prevailed among the nations. It made new revelations. Of the Creator.
Of God.
Of man's nature.
Meaning what? They created a new God in the earth, and they taught about newness of man's nature,
duties, and destination, and laid down new rules for his conduct.
And laid down new rules for conduct. I wonder what this is talking about. This is talking about the new Christian religion of today. That's what it's going. Let me give you an example of that. Give me 1 Timothy 4, 1-3, please. This is the exalting of the Roman Catholic Church And it's not the Roman Catholic Church that people talk, Constantine Momacmos. It started there, but its fulfillment was during the 1400s when they said, you know what? We don't like the way God looks. We want to alter that. We don't like these laws. We want to alter that too. But what we will take from Constantine, we're going to keep that Sunday practice. We're going to keep the Immaculate Conception lie. We will take that. And watch this. Read that.
1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly.
Now Paul is going to prophesy about the new religion. Go ahead.
That in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits.
Giving heed to seducing spirits, seducing pastors, seducing reverends. Go ahead.
And doctrines of devils.
Seducing priests and doctrines of devils. So what is this talking about? Christianity is a doctrines of devils. Whether you call it Catholic or not. Oh no, we're not Catholic. We're Protestant. We protested against the Catholic Church. We don't follow the Pope. But you took all the things under the Pope with you except him. Read.
Verse 2. Speaking lies and hypocrisy.
Meaning you got the Bible in your hand, you taught a new religion. You said, oh no, you don't got to keep no commandments in Jesus. Read.
Having their conscience seared with a hot iron.
Read.
Forbidding to marry.
It's going to stipulate the new religion. This religion forbids men to marry. That's Roman Catholicism. Go ahead.
And commanding to abstain from meats.
Because on Lent, they say you cannot eat meat. That's what they do. Go ahead.
Which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth.
So Paul said you got to eat for those who believe and know the law. Know the truth. Psalms 119 verse 142, please. For those that believe and know the truth. This is one of the chapters they use to say, you can eat whatever you want. Really? Is that what the truth is? Read.
Psalm 119 verse 142. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth.
So that's what Paul is talking about, the law. For those that believe and know the law. Back to 1 Timothy 4, please. I'm sorry. Give me Matthew 24, verse 4 and 5. We're still discussing the new religion in the earth that was prophesied by not only Paul, but Christ himself. Read.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 4. And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
He's talking about the upsurgence of a new religion in the earth. He said a new religion is going to come cover the face of the whole earth, and they're going to say that they're the Christ. Give me the book, the Bourgeois, please. That's not, yeah, put the cover on, put that up. The Bourgeois by Marion Johnson. Let's go inside the book, please. Inside the book, Leonardo da Vinci was hired to paint Caesar Borgia as the new model for Jesus Christ. They said, we don't want that black image. We don't want nothing blacky. I'm going to show you that too. We don't want nothing black. Y'all might think I'm just joking. I'm not joking. We want to get rid of everything black. We want a white God with a white Christ. And these are the sketches he did. T.D. Jakes ain't going to teach you this. Creflo ain't teaching you this. Read that on the highlighted, the side left, Nehemiah.
Portrait sketches of Caesar by Leonardo da Vinci.
So that Caesar is Caesar Borgias, the second son of Pope Alexander VI of Rome. Go ahead.
After the fall of Milan and his patron Ludovico il Moro, Leonardo found employment with Caesar as his chief engineer.
Yeah, he was his artisan. Chief engineer, chief artisan. Go ahead.
His main task being to supervise fortifications.
They fortified new images of God and Christ. Now, go back to the cover of the book, Treaty on Physical Geography. I said they didn't want nothing black. Well, who was black? Go back to the cover of the book. Go back. Yep, put it back up on the screen. So we're going right back to this book. And I want to go to page 297. Yeah, raise it up. Let's start there. Now, let me sum it up for you. They talk about black Jews and white Jews in this. The white Jews are converts. That's not our focus. I want y'all to see the scholars talk about black Jews, the blacks being the Jews. Read.
Thus the Jews are a people who have ever, according to the prophecy, dwelt alone.
Remember it says, come out from among them and be separate. Go ahead.
Without intermixing with the nations to this day. Now this separate race all descended from brown ancestors.
This separate race all descended from brown ancestors. Go ahead.
For Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob must have been as dark as Mar Yohanan, if not darker.
So they were dark brown. That's what they're saying. Abraham and Isaac and Jacob were dark brown. Not light-skinned it, and definitely not white. Go ahead.
Exhibit every shade of color from the black Jews of Malabar.
Now, just jump down to the next highlight. Again, where I didn't underline it, go into the white Jews. I don't give a damn about them because they're converts. Go ahead. Spanish Jew.
The Spanish Jew is always dark complexioned.
The Spanish Jew is always dark complexioned. The Spanish, because in Spain, that's where he was living, that's where he was ruling. Read.
And his hair is uniformly black.
Jump down to the next highlight.
The various shades of color observable among the Negro or African race tends to the same conclusion.
He's saying the Jews is the Negro and the African race. They look the same. Go ahead.
Along the coast of Guinea, which is low, marshy, and hot, we find jet black complexions.
Because remember, if you remember your history, they took many of those black Jews to Guinea as slaves on the colonies there that Portugal set up. It says, along the coast of Guinea, which is low, marshy, and hot, we find jet black complexions. Read.
And this is the very country from which American Negroes have been derived.
Do y'all see that? Do y'all see this? This is what the scholars put together. They said them American blacks come from that group of Jews that came from Guinea, a lot of them. So now, give me the article, Alicia. No, give me the book that says America being the latest. I want the cover. America being the latest. Y'all pay close attention. Don't tell me I didn't send it. Raise it up. Right there. Yep, put that on the screen. You see that? Read that, Nehemiah.
America being the latest and most accurate description of the New World.
All right. Go to the next page. I hope I gave it to you. I hope I didn't forget. Yeah, zoom in on that. Where it says, now, Nehemiah, the ones that look like F's are S's. Inside, they always do, this is that old English writing. So what looks like an F is generally an S. Go ahead.
The Portuguese.
No, wait. You know what? I didn't give you the year. This book was the 1800s too. I forgot to take a snapshot. But this book was also the 1800s. Go ahead.
The Portuguese that dwelt on this island informed the
Netherlanders.
The Netherlanders that few live above 50 years there.
So few lived above 50 years there because it was hard for these white people, those Netherlanders, to live on this particular island he's going to talk about. Go ahead.
Yet notwithstanding, the great gain tempted them to tarry, several of them having 200 or 300 Negroes that worked in the sugar mills.
Portugal has set up sugar colonies on the islands around Africa. That's what they did. So these guys, these Netherlanders, several of them had 200 or 300 Negroes that worked in the sugar mills. Go ahead, read.
That John III, King of Portugal, sent a colony thither above 200 years before.
Meaning in the 1400s. Go ahead.
Whom though the unwholesome air destroyed.
That's why the Netherlanders were dying there. Go ahead, because they couldn't deal with the air. Go ahead. It was so hot. Go ahead.
Yet the place was not left desolate.
Read.
For he sent new inhabitants who first settled in Guinea, next Angola.
So Guinea was settled first, then Angola by the Portuguese.
And lastly, on the island St. Thomas.
The island St. Thomas, that's another island on the shores of Africa, the west coast of Africa. Go ahead.
That's so they might be the better used to the air.
So they put colonies there so that they could be better used to the air because it was so daggone hot. Go ahead.
That the said king sold all those Jews for
You
slaves.
see this? This is what I'm showing y'all. That the said king sold all those Jews for slaves. What Jews for slaves? The ones from Guinea, Angola, and the island of St. Thomas. They called them Jews and they were sold for slaves. Go ahead.
That refused to embrace the Roman religion.
Wait, stop right there. What was our crime? We refused to accept this new form of Christianity, this new religion, the Roman religion of Christianity. That's what Christ warned us about. That's what Paul was warning us about. And this is why we was going into slavery. Read that part again. That said king.
That said king sold all those Jews for slaves that refused to embrace the Roman religion and caused their children to be baptized.
They forced their children to be baptized. They made our kids slaves in Portugal and Spain and sent the parents as slaves in these islands. That's what they were doing to us. This is taking place. I'm going to show the years talking about. Go ahead.
From whom coming thither in great numbers,
They sent hundreds of thousands of us as slaves. Go ahead.
most of the present inhabitants were descended.
Right. Now, from there, Elisha, I want the article on Pope Nicholas V. Pope Nicholas V, and I want to jump down where it says notably treated. Pope Nicholas, wait, go back to the title. Go back to the title. Can we put it on the screen, please? Why is it not on the screen? Read that, please.
Pope Nicholas V and the Portuguese slave trade.
So we've been reading about the Portuguese thus far, but now we're going to stipulate Pope Nicholas V. Raise it up. I want to get to the part that says, notably the treatment of Gentiles. Notably the treatment. Okay, right there. Do you see that, Netchama? Can you
Yes, sir.
highlight that,
Yes.
Elisha?
I see it, sir.
I want the people at home, this is where we're going to start. Read that right there. But this is Pope damn Nicholas V. Go ahead.
Notably, the treatment of black Gentiles was addressed in 1452 and 1455 when Pope Nicholas V issued a series of papal bulls
Papal bulls are like executive orders. Go ahead.
that granted Portugal the right to enslave sub-Saharan Africans.
So he's the one that instituted the slave trade. Pope Nicholas V, under the Roman Catholic Church. Christians, you are a bunch of dummies following that garbage. You better come out from among us. Read it again.
Notably, the treatment of black Gentiles was addressed in 1452 and 1455 when Pope Nicholas V issued a series of
But what I want you to do, notably the treatment of black Gentiles. Why did they call us black Gentiles? Because we rejected that damnable form of Christianity. We didn't want no white Jesus. We didn't want no white God. We didn't want Christmas and Easter and none of that garbage. So they made us slaves. They said enslave all those Jews that reject us. Now, some of us was coons and accepted it. But there was a large portion of us that did not. Read it again. Notably.
Notably, the treatment of black...
Wait, let me look at something. Read the sentence before that. Legal and philosophical. Start from there.
Yes. Legal and philosophical arguments to address began to evolve during the second half of the 15th century.
That's like 1450, around there. That's why when you look at some of the slaves, it was 1441. Go ahead. That's what it's talking about. Go ahead.
Once Portuguese mariners began to return to
Iberia. That's Spain and Portugal. Go ahead.
with captives acquired in West Africa
With captives acquired in West Africa
and West Central Africa.
and West Central Africa, that's like the Congo.
Notably, the treatment of black
They
Gentiles
called us black Gentiles. Now remember, in the other books, they said they sent the Jews over there. Go ahead.
was addressed in 1452 and 1455 when Pope Nicholas V issued a series of papal bulls that granted Portugal the right to enslave sub-Saharan Africans. Church leaders argued that slavery served as a natural deterrent and Christianizing influence to barbarous behavior among pagans.
You see how they justified it? They said, oh, they're pagans because we're not following white Jesus. That's what they did. They're not following Christmas. They're not following Easter. These are pagans. These are Gentiles. That's why they changed all of our names. And I got other books that show they changed our identities. Go ahead.
Using this logic, the Pope issued a mandate to the Portuguese king, Alfonso V, and instructed him.
So stop right there. Let's get to the Bible now, Revelation 13. Let's read the prophecy about what we just read. With the uprise of, you had Rome, Spain, and Portugal. Rome and Iberia. I'm almost done. You Christians are a bunch of idiots. All of us was idiots in that garbage. But thank the Lord he woke us up. Aren't you happy? Aren't you glad? Let's get a Lord a hand for that. All praises. Revelation 13. We're going to start at verse 5. We're not going to read everything. We did classes on this before. We're just going to read 5 through 8.
Revelation chapter 13, verse 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy.
This is the white man. He rose up and spoke great things and blasphemy. Like what? Like God is a white man. Jesus is white. The Jews are white. That's what the angels of heaven are white. And you black, you Jews, you're no longer Jews. You are Gentiles. You are sub-Saharan Africans. You are Gentiles. That's what you are. Read.
And power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
350 years. Come on.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God.
That's what I was just explaining again. Go ahead.
To blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven.
Everybody's white. And the Pope is God manifest on earth. He's Christ, what was the word? Vicar? Vicar. Christ vicar, meaning Christ's replacement or substitute on the earth. It's Antiochus Epiphanes all over again. Read.
Verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints.
Go ahead.
And to overcome them.
They overcame us, the saints, because we are the saints. Read the precept, please, because I know there's somebody new. There's a Christian sitting here. I know. Everybody that's a saint that believes in white Jesus, oh, shut the hell up. Psalms, what was it, 148? Yeah.
Psalms chapter 148, verse 14. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him.
So the only saints are the children of Israel. So when we go back to Revelation 13, verse 7, let's look and see what the white man did when he rose up as Rome under the Pope, followed with Spain and Portugal. Verse 7.
Revelation chapter 13, verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints.
The Israelites.
And to overcome them.
He overcame us and enslaved us when he overcame us. That's what we were just reading about. Go ahead.
And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
In fact, they had Christianity go throughout the earth with this white Jesus garbage. Go ahead.
And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him.
That's the proof. It's talking about white Jesus. Who are they worshiping? That white image of Christ. That's what this is talking. Read it again, verse 8.
Verse 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life.
Whose names are not written in the book of life.
Of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
Go ahead.
Verse 9. If any man have an ear.
If you have understanding.
Let him hear.
You listen good to the judgment of this. Read.
He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
Why? Because of verse 7. Read verse 7 because I know you forgot already.
Verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them.
They killed us and enslaved us. That's why verse 10, Christ is given the judgment for what they did to the saints. Read.
He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
Here is the patience and faith in the saints. Sure, yes, they made war against us and overcame us and enslaved us. But we got to patiently wait for the judgment to come. Revelation 18:4.
Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues.
What is it he wants us to take part in? Their sins. Like what? Like their religious sins. of Christmas and New Year's Eve and Mother's Day and Father's Day and Baby Day and Dog Day and Cat Damn Day. The hell is this? He said, come out from among them. He don't want us in their religions. He don't want us in their political system at all. Read that again.
Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues.
So from there, Revelation 14:12.
Revelation.
We're going to seal the deal with the last book of the Bible regarding whether or not we must keep the commandments. Read.
Revelation chapter 14, verse 12. Here is the patience of the saints.
The saints of the 12 tribes of Israel. Read.
Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.
Here are they that keep the commandments of God like Paul taught us, like Christ taught us, and the faith of Jesus. Revelation 22:14, please.
Revelation chapter 22, verse 14. Blessed are they that do his commandments.
Read it again.
Blessed are they that do his commandments.
Read it again.
Blessed are they that do his commandments.
Read.
That they may have right to the tree of life.
That they may have right to immortality. When you read Sirach 19, verse 19, y'all can write that down. Read it. Just read it for us in case I know somebody's, what do you mean by the tree of life? What you talking about? Read that. Sirach 19:19.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 19, verse 19. The knowledge of the commandments of the Lord is the doctrine of life, and they that do things that please him shall receive the fruit of the tree of immortality.
See that? The fruit of the tree of immortality. Back to Revelation 22:14, please.
Revelation chapter 22, verse 14. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city.
The only way you enter in the city of the kingdom of heaven, you must be doing the commandments. I hope everybody understand that. Now that's different than the guy that repented the last minute, but don't think you're that guy. That's for another lesson, another day. But in case you don't want to keep the commandments and you want to be outside the city, read verse 15.
Verse 15. For without are dogs,
Creflo Dollar,
and sorcerers,
T.D. Jakes,
and whoremongers,
Jamal Warner Bryant,
and murderers,
Joe Juanita Bynum,
and idolaters,
and the urban apologetics,
and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie.
And all Christendom and Muslims. That's them. That's what the Bible's called. You don't want to keep the commandments, you're a dog. You're a sorcerer. You're an idolater. Stay outside the kingdom of heaven. And with that, brothers and sisters, I say shalom.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission, minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold, from Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.